Started in a couple of minutes. So yes, we're live, so we can. We'll be ready to start in just a minute or so. Hello, Robin, Bree, and Kammy.
Hello.
Hello. Guess this is not
Hi.
the time to crack a joke, huh? Okay.
Yes, and we are streaming live on Facebook as well. So you all behave yourself.
I'll try.
I don't know. I almost got two shots down, and the first one wasn't Jack
Awesome.
Daniels, so I'm good.
Awesome.
You know, I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
All
It's all
right.
good. It's all good. It's all good. We're excited. You know, Facebook and Chris Hendricks is making us all high tech and stuff, so we appreciate that.
Yeah. He's got your broadcasting on a couple of different spaces on this Bantucola, the business directory for Black businesses here in Northwest Florida. So that's growing pretty good, and so we look forward to using that and taking advantage of it.
Okay.
Yes. So all righty, we're ready to roll here. It's 6 o'clock almost in here in Central Florida, and we're ready to roll with the Pensacola Network. Hello, Miss Robin, Miss Bree, and Miss Kammy.
Oh, we get fancy names, y'all. We got guests on showing up. We get
Mr. Richard.
Miss.
Good to be with you all.
Oh,
And Bree and Robin.
let me sit up straight. Well, welcome to the Pensacola Network. We're excited y'all are here and no folks are coming on. Those of you who are on Hop In and Facebook Live on Pensacola Network, Facebook Live on Bantucola and whatever other platforms. We're glad you're here. Happy April. What is April? Women's Pay Equity Month. Are we equal in pay yet? I don't know.
Not quite. We're not there yet.
A whole nother month. Boy, I didn't need your help to tell the truth. Thank you very much. Don't tell the truth next time. What are we 5 months in? We're almost there. Trying to
Is
find
Robin
some
expecting to be heard, or is she purposely muted?
No, she's not muted. We hear her.
Oh, you do? Why do I not hear her?
Oh, okay. That it may be just a little technical difficulties there. It does that sometimes, Kammy.
Okay, great. Sorry. I mean, not great, but I'm glad.
Well, you need to hear when you all start talking. So
yeah, I do. So
yeah, if you like, you can just leave.
Okay, now I'm good. Now I can hear.
Good. Okay.
Will you say something, Robin? Okay.
Hello.
Oh, thank you, Jesus. I can hear you again. All right.
All right. So we're excited. It's y'all are seeing technology work live and in person. We're excited that it's April, and again that that we've lost so many of our neighbors and friends, that we're excited that you're here. However you're listening, and that there is a path forward. So this is it's spring, and a new season, and so we're just excited.
Yes, we're definitely glad where people are getting their COVID shots and getting ready to get back out in public and meet and chat with people.
Yeah, and I'm still laughing. I'm still laughing because we had some friends over on Wednesday that I have this joke in my head that one of our friends said we were all outside, and so I'm still laughing about that, and I'm still laughing about our march with Misunderstood, the comedian who just gave us some levity, how to laugh again, how to kind of really feel good, and how to find the joy again. So I'm really excited about that, and even for this conversation that we're going to have with Kammy. I think that's really cool. So laughter is good for the soul. So
Absolutely.
I'm good. Any announcements, babe?
Well, I'll let you go with the couple announcements you're going to make. I don't really have anything major, and other than the networking tonight, I got a chance to chat with Kammy for a little bit, and also got a chance to chat with Linda from London over in Europe. So that was pretty neat, and was and she's a tech entrepreneur, and so she's trying to expand her products and services over here in America. Did I leave anything out, Kammy?
Yeah, you got it.
Yes, but we'll leverage other help with our startup on the blocks with the founders and chief.
So are you saying the Pensacola network is international?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
always, always.
We don't reach past cantonment, past century. Oh wow. All right.
No comment.
I'm gonna get in trouble from that from the mayor. I'm getting in trouble from that from the mayor. But I do want to announce that Rita Milton, who has been a beautiful volunteer for the community, for movement, especially many people know her from Movement for Change. She's celebrating 20 years with Movement for Change, and they were going to have her do a celebration with her tomorrow, but because of the weather, they moved it to May 1st. So if you get a chance to just do a drive-by next Saturday, and you can check out Movement for Change website or Facebook page about that, but just to celebrate someone who's really had a long history of service in our community for civil rights, equal rights, justice. She was there, sounds like she was there from the beginning with the amazing Leroy Boyd and the Boyd family and all who started Movement for Change. So that's going to be next Saturday, May 1st. And I think we put that on our Facebook page. So
Yeah, we did.
Be sure to just celebrate her.
Yes, that's right. And she's also a volunteer for the Pensacola Network and for the Kukui Institute. Yeah.
Yep. And it just has a beautiful smile and a beautiful countenance, and that laugh is just, infectious. So really excited. And then on the other end of that, we want to celebrate the legacies of Marilyn Wesley, who was a longtime county employee over community development, neighborhoods with the Board of County Commissioners. I think she was there for almost 30 years and retired a few years ago. She transitioned, unfortunately, a few weeks ago, and they're having her service, or they're having a viewing at Christian Family Funeral tomorrow. So it's a good way to just celebrate her life and just remember the good work that she did. With the county, with community development and economic development. So we really will miss her. She left a mark. And then Leon Daggs, wow, what do you say about him? Who a longtime owner of Hub City Ford Mercury over in Okaloosa County, and him and his wife Sandra Daggs started that some years ago. One of this area's only African American owned and one of the largest car dealerships. And so he had the Kappa brother to Lloyd was with the Boulay worship at St. Joseph Church. He made his transition. And so just want to again celebrate his life and his legacy, because that's so it was amazing at the memorial service how many people had different perspectives of him. So just really appreciate all the work that he did while he was on this plane.
Fantastic. Yes, it was a great service for him.
Yeah. So we appreciate them. Really appreciate them. Yeah. Leon told to, they say if you say your name, you never leave. So here's to Leon and Marilyn and all the others that we've lost. I'm sure there's a ton of names that I'm forgetting, but to all the others, just keep people encouraged, y'all. Keep that strength going.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, and I just want to thank all the sponsors of the Pensacola Network and the supporters over all the years. And it's really been great. And we're hoping to go back live in person for our 8th anniversary. And we're hoping, and this is for you, Robin, we're hoping to have a hybrid event.
What? No. Can I wear a suit jacket and my shorts and my flip-flops? Can I do the Zoom thing there too? So you only have the camera up, and I'm gonna wear some beach shoes and I don't know. I'm 25. I may wear a thong or something. You never know. I don't know. I don't know if you can even say that legally on Hop In, but I may wear a thong. You never know. I don't care.
They're gonna cancel our subscription.
Either people are not going to show up now.
All righty. But anyway, but
I'll
that's,
have my mask on, but with a thong. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm probably going to get in trouble for that too. Okay. No problem. It's Friday.
It's Friday.
Bree, I think it's your time to talk to Robert.
Is it time to bring Bree up so I can stop getting in trouble? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So, Kammy, so you're good. And I'm headed up to you. All have fun. And I'll be listening and put the presentation up when you want it.
Okay, well, thank you. I know I got the thong in my head now, so now I got to go do some leg lifts. Okay, so I'm excited to have Bree McCaskill as our first guest with some very exciting news to update us. Bree is a business consultant with the Small Business Development Center at the University of West Florida, and the Florida Small Business Development Center has been working with them to make sure that we are empowered and informed. And so I'm really excited to have you here, Bree, to make this announcement about this, I don't want to say next round of funding or additional funding that is going to be provided to our small business owners. So welcome to the Pensacola Network, and thank you so much for taking the time. Especially, I know this is a special weekend for you. Thank you for taking the time to be here. So welcome. That's everybody clapping.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So you have some big news. Yay.
Yeah. So again, my name is Bree McCaskill. I do consulting work with the Small Business Development Center at the University of West Florida. And tonight, I really just wanted to kind of go over some of the programming. It's access to capital for small businesses that have been impacted by COVID-19. This year, we were really fortunate to have the American Rescue Plan signed into law in March the 11th. And it's just provided a lot of funding. And I just wanted to kind of go over some of those programs out there so our viewers are a little bit familiar with it. Thank you, Lloyd. Lloyd's going to bring up just an overview of some of the programs here. So the very first program that I'm going to discuss is the Shutter.
Bree, let me just ask you real quick. Is this new funding or is this additional funding? So you talked about the American Rescue Plan. Is this new? So just to give people an idea of where we are for this funding and to give them a sense of a connection.
So they've had funding for COVID-19 that was under the CARE Act program. So the American Rescue Plan is like an extension of that program. So they've added more funding for some of the programs that had been exhausted. They didn't have any more funding available to businesses that might have applied last year. And then they've also brought on some new plans, some new programming for specific industries. The Shutter Venue Operators Grant, that's specifically for venues that may be like, a museum or an art that where you live at. These are federal programs, by the way. This one's kind of set up where the business owner can apply for assistance, and they have an application set up where this grant is actually money that doesn't have to be returned, and you could get about 45% of your gross revenue. And funding is desperately needed at this time. They do have this program back reopened. Just to clarify, it initially opened on April the 8th, and it had some technical issues, some glitches online. So the portal was temporarily closed. So now they've kind of resolved a few of those things, and they're going to reopen it on April the 24th, which is actually tomorrow. This particular program, it does have a couple of things just to be aware of. They're requesting that that you be a business that was in operation in 2019 because you're comparing your 2019 operation over your 2020 and your 2021 operation. Most of those venues, they have been like closed for a period of time. But per each venue, you could apply for up to $10 million. And again, it's going to be an equal amount of 45% of your actual revenue that you might have grossed in 2019. So that is like the basic formula that they're putting forward. To apply, they are asking that you do a couple of extra steps. One's going to be getting a DUNS number, and one's also registering with the SAMS.gov, which is both of those things don't actually cost you any money to do, the getting a DUNS number and also registering with the SAMS registration. Typically, they use those platforms to do like for government contract and procurement. That's how they actually get funding to those businesses. They do have like priority levels set up. So with the priority level, so if you experience where you lost like 90% of your gross revenue, they're going to help those businesses first. And then they have 70%, 25%. So they'll tier that in. They're going to focus on the businesses that have been hurt most first, and then tier in the other venues that have also can demonstrate a loss, but maybe not as severe as the 90% or greater portion of their revenue.
Okay, so is this for-profit businesses only, or can nonprofit businesses or religious organizations apply? What's the breadth of who can apply for that?
So they do have a like who can apply. So if you could go down just a little bit further on this particular visual here, they give you a list of what expenses can be used for, and also who can apply. The number one thing is you have to have been operational as of February 15, 2020. So that's one thing initially that you have to meet. Other overviews, just having your DUNS number, your SAMS registration, and being able to demonstrate that significant loss of revenue. The first tier is going to be 90%. They're going to address those issues first, and then gradually they'll get to everyone else as the money go along. And I want to say that there is somewhere in the ballpark of 26 million set aside for this particular grant. But yeah, those are really good questions. So basically, it's going to be
Lloyd, stop scrolling just for a second. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Bree.
Yeah. So it's going to be for-profit entities typically is what they're going to be looking at. And there are actually some of the nonprofits, but again, it's the criteria of how much gross revenue funds that you've lost. That's what they're measuring.
Okay, and we'll put links to this in the chat and on Facebook and this presentation. We can share this presentation, correct, Bree? That will
Absolutely.
have all of that information as well, because I know it's a lot of information and all of the process, and we don't want people to miss that. So, and she's done a great job with outlining that in this PDF. So we will share this with you for all of our viewers and listeners out there. So this is the shuttered venue. So people who have event centers or like you said, museums or after school spaces or even businesses, restaurants, things like that. This is really important funding. And so that portal opens up. Is that midnight tonight? So at 12:01 tonight, they can go there.
That's right.
Great.
That's right. They're saying the 24th. So I imagine that will probably start working on Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, the portal, it is online. It's an online application only. So basically you would create an application profile, so to speak, and then you would be inputting the information for your business there, where you're located, and also the financial information to support that. I have included in this PDF outline just some YouTube videos on basically how to complete the SAMS Gov registration because it's a multi-step process.
Okay, and Bree will also make herself available. We'll post her contact information in there. She has phone and email, and she has some office hours next week as well. And so just based on how we've worked with the Small Business Development Center in the past, we know that the information that they're putting out and, you know, following the steps that Bree and last year Dorian, but I know Bree's really been in the what do you say, where the rubber meets the road in this, just based on that, we've seen people in associated with the Pensacola network and getting this information, get these well needed dollars. And so thank you, Bree, so much for sharing this. Let's go to the next one, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund.
So the RRF, this particular program is set up for restaurants. It also might apply to bars and inns. You're really demonstrating that 33% of your revenue comes from food, and from those gross revenues being produced by the selling of food or drinks. Now, this particular program, so they've set aside about $28.6 billion. It is also a funding that is a grant program, so to speak. So they give you guidelines on how to spend the funding. And as long as you're complying with those guidelines on how to spend the funding, then it is a grant fund, so to speak. It's not money that they're going to ask you to return.
Okay, great. That's huge too. I know a lot of restaurants try to, that new word, that 2020 word, I'm about tired of, pivot and do like, what do you call it? Drive up orders or things like that. But some of them really did have a hard time and adjusting. And I imagine especially the bars, I know they relax on, or they amended the rules on some of that, you know, about taking drinks away, but they were still hard hit. So we're really excited. And that's 28.6 billion with a B, y'all, with the B. Okay, let me stop on the B's. Okay, all right. Just want to make sure they heard billion, not million. So please apply for these dollars. Well, much needed dollars.
Something that they did for this particular program, just wanted to mention to you, they actually waived the fact that you have to do the SAMS registration or the DUNS registration. So on the RRF, you won't have to do that. However, basically what they're really going to focus on, you know, if you are a restaurant, if you are a food stand or a food truck or a food cart or a caterer, a bar, saloon, however your business operates in the accommodations industry, they're going to be looking to see if those on-site sales for the premises, you know, the 33% of that gross receipts. That's what they're going to be focusing on. The application, again, is going to be through a portal. And this portal, if I'm not mistaken, is due to open soon. If it's not already open, it's actually going to be administered through the Small Business Administration. So it's going to be on their website. Okay,
great. And then the other one, and then again, in all this information, I know we're going over it a little fast, but all this information is on the is going to be on the link that we'll share. And then talk about the you said the EIDL, the economic the gap one that I cannot think of. I wrote down EIDL.
So yeah, the economic injury disaster loan, there is an EIDL advance. If you applied to that program last year and you did not receive the $10,000, what they're doing this year is that they're working from those applications submitted, and they're working to make sure businesses get the $10,000 that they had applied for during the EIDL advance. They weren't able to give you that money last year because they just simply ran out of money. But because of the new funding from the American Rescue Plan, that $1.9 trillion, part of that money is going to go to the advance. So if you've had an application that you did submit last year, they're reaching out to individuals to see, to check in. So, you know, if you didn't get the full $10,000, they'll make sure that you are funded that money on the back end. The other part is that they do also have more funding, additional funding for the EIDL loan program. So there was an advance that if you already applied, then they will reach out to you and let you know if this is applicable to you. So you don't really need to take any steps with that. But then they also have the EIDL loan portion open, and that is like for working capital. So if you are actually looking to expand your business, or if you need to buy some new things for your business, they are providing working capital at a very low commercial interest rate. So it's a 3.75%, I want to say, somewhere around there. And they're doing, I think I want to say it's up to, I want to say initially it was like $25,000 you could do without collateral. And then anything above that, you would need a collateralized asset. However, that is actually a great program, especially if you're like some businesses are actually growing during this time. So if you're in a growth mode, they're putting programs out there so that you could borrow money to continue growing your business as well.
Okay. All right. And then the last one is the PPP loan. I'll say loan, but yeah.
So yeah, the Paycheck Protection Program, just to be very clear with that, it is a loan. It's a 1% interest rate loan for a 5-year term. How they have the program designed, if you use the funding for business expenses and payroll, you can apply for forgiveness, and then the loan actually becomes forgivable. So that's when it technically turns into money that you don't have to return if you've used the funds as you know, in the outline or the guidance of the funding, then it becomes a forgivable loan. Otherwise, it's a 1% 5-year term loan, which is still a great deal. And yeah, and it's really, these programs are just historical programs that you probably have never heard of before or ever seen before. And really, the federal government wants to support the businesses and provide them with the funding that they need in order to support that business, whether it's to working capital to expand their business or just operational funding for those business payroll expenses to keep individuals employed, and also keep the business expenses, things like rent or mortgage expenses or insurance, things of that nature, being able to afford those costs.
Great. Okay. All right. Anything else out of the rescue plan that we need to know about? And I am so glad again, thank you so much for for sharing this. I think it's so important. And again, we will link this in the chat room to make sure that people can get the whole.
Something I wanted to say really quick, Robin, is the PPP. There's now that there's more funding, so they did have a PPP. There's a round 1, and they have a PPP round 2. So if you didn't get funding for the PPP, the first round, you can actually apply for both of those still until May 31st. So they did have an extension that will go on for that program. Again, the how that works out, you just have to demonstrate you had a 25% loss in gross sales in any quarter of your operation. So say 2019, you had a fairly good year, you had great income, or you were in the green. And then the year following, in 2020 or in 2021, out of any of those 8 quarters, if you can just demonstrate you had a 25% reduction, you can get funding. And they have a special formula worked out for it. It's 2.5 times the what is it, the employee expense cost that you would have for 1 year, for 1 month. That would be the max amount that you would be able to capture. And then if you're in the accommodations industry, those are the industries that have the the North American Industry Code 7.2. Those are going to be 3.5 times the amount that you might use on payroll expenses for the month.
Okay. And again, all of this information, we will link to the deal. Again, I know it's a lot and we're cramming a lot in, but I just looked at the calendar, May 31st. We do have the Pensacola Network on May 28th. So maybe you can come back and kind of, pop in and remind us again on that day. And if you have other forms, I know you work with Brian Wire with the chamber and a lot of other groups. So, if you want to get Bree to share, we'll post her information there so we can get this information out as far and as wide as possible. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bree, especially for taking the time during this, during your anniversary celebration, and happy anniversary. And we wish you a wonderful and relaxing weekend. Y'all have a great time, and we'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. All right, so that was a lot of great information. And again, thanks so much to Bree for taking the time. I know we crammed a lot of information in a small amount of time, but it's so important that we not forget about connecting you not only to other people, but to resources. That's just as important. And we want to see you. It's like why people choose to take the shot is because we want to see you again, right? We want to see you next year and the year after and the year after. And so to do those things that will help you and not hurt you. So thanks to Bree and the Small Business Development Center for keeping us in the loop on that. And so we're going to keep going with the Pensacola Network show, and I'm really excited for our special guest. Bree was our special guest. This is our special guest. I just made a new category. Our special guest. That you heard me say pivot, but there have been so many words over the last year. We've had grief and this idea of collective grief, pivoting. I'm sure a lot of y'all have said, at least maybe I've said, WTF, under my breath. We won't talk about that under my breath. And then my other favorite word is shiggity. That's been one.
I like it.
But one of the newest ones for 2021, this sort of feeling, this void between depression and flourishing that was, I don't know if it was coined by him, but a psychologist, Adam Grant, is languishing, this kind of in between feeling, and what do you do? And maybe a lot of us have felt that way and not put a name to it. And so this journey that we're on between this, kind of depression on where we've been in economic and spiritual, even mental, physical, and flourishing. So I guess my question is, how do you sort of discover along the way what really matters, what's important? And so I'm really glad that our special guest today, Kathryn Mary, I was always about to say Mary Kathryn, Kathryn Mary Kammy Young. Every time I say Reverend Young, she goes, "It's just Kammy, Robin. It's just Kammy." And so I'm that's right, really glad to have her here. She has worked with the community to start here, the Children's Defense Fund, Freedom School, Children Defense Fund, Freedom School, say that 10 times, started by one of my heroes, Marian Wright Edelman, out of the DC area. She recently retired from the last 3 years as the Bishop's Assistant for, I'm going to read this so I don't get it wrong, Bishop's Assistant for Development, Evangelism, and Mission Engagement for the Central Gulf Coast. So please welcome to the April edition of the Pensacola Network show, Reverend Kathryn. Just Kammy, Robin, just Kammy. Kathryn Mary Kammy Young.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robin.
I'm so glad to have you here, and
I'm happy to be here.
yeah, thank you
I'm
so much.
honored.
Yeah, so this conversation, rediscovering what's important. I don't know if you remember, Kammy is, full disclosure, Kammy's my neighbor,
Mhm.
down in Belmont de Villers. And we were sitting on, we have 110-year wall out in front. And so I love it. And you can sit on it and it feels like you're connecting. And we were sitting on it, and I think um, her favorite grandchild of mine is Houston. I can say that, right?
You
Till the end of
can.
May.
Yeah,
Say
till the
that.
end of May.
Okay, so Houston, she had Houston there, and so we were talking socially distant, and she shared some news with me about this transition, and it just struck me that number one, that she was bold enough to voice it, and bold enough to do it, and then bolder enough to voice it.
Mhm.
And I thought, how many of us are thinking this way to do this? As I said, that she recently retired from this position as the bishop's assistant, and so
It's more like I quit.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not old enough yet to retire. I just quit.
Yeah, but even doing that
Yeah.
though, I think that, this whole idea of what Adam Grant said, languishing. So my first question, we'll get into your bio, but my first question is, what was going on that made you do this? And then just kind of, talk about what you did, and then talk about a little bit about what was happening in you, that, or even outside of you, that made you make this
Hmm.
decision about your discovery or rediscovering.
Yeah, so I like that you called it rediscovering what is important, because this conversation, because first of all, I think it takes practice to discover what's important. I don't think we do it once and quit. It is a constant process of rediscovering what's important. And so, I've had some practice. We all have had practice. We all have, we don't just die once. We die, we suffer a lot of losses of opportunities and people and loves, that get us ready for remembering what's important. So I guess I kind of wanted to start there a little bit. And first, I'll just say that when Lloyd sent me a text to say, I wanted to see if I got your title right, and I looked at the title and it said former pastor and teacher. And I thought, okay, this isn't as good for my ego as some other titles I've had before, but it didn't bother me at all. In fact, so I guess I wanted to just share with you briefly how I graduated from being somebody to being a former somebody, or former pastor and teacher, because the job I had, I loved. It was good, as well as paying the bills. It gave me health benefits and pension, and wonderful connections with good people. But I quit in 2020 because COVID had helped me rediscover what was important, as I think it's done for a lot of people. I have to say that, one of my favorite kind of definitions around a crisis, or things to remember about crisis, is that a crisis is one of those things that if you get through it, you're never the same. You may be better or you may be worse, but you are never the same when you come through a crisis. And if COVID-19 and millions of people's deaths, if the police killings of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and so many others that got videotaped and seen, if the heightened awareness of climate change and its effect and the dire need for it, and then January 6th insurrection, if 2020 and its sister around the corner on January 6th doesn't count for a crisis, then I don't know what does. So I guess what I want to say, first of all, is this has been a year for all of us that I think if we got through it, and not everyone did, has made us either better or worse, or has led us to chances to do things that are bringing us to what is better or worse in us and around us. So anyway, I guess I just wanted to say, first of all, it's been a crisis year.
Yeah, one of my favorite documentaries that airs on, I haven't seen it anyplace else, but it airs on PBS. It's called either Buddha or The Buddha. And one of the practitioners of Buddhism says, this is the thing that really sticks with me. She says, Buddhism teaches you to get through it so you can get to it.
Oh, wow.
And that is powerful to me. Buddhism teaches you, so get through it so you can get to it. Because to your point, how many got stopped in their journey, whether externally, like George Floyd did in his journey, I just said
Brianna? No.
Breonna Taylor, thank you. And so many others whose name we don't know, whose transition did not get recorded.
Right.
And the 500,000 of our neighbors who died from COVID around the world, so did not have the chance to get through it or to get to it. How do you handle it? Feels like what you're saying, like the weight, you had a lot of weight on your show. I imagine the weight that George Floyd literally.
Everybody has. And, I have to say, hearing him call for his mother is no small part of my decision to say it's time. And I guess what I'd love to do is just tell you about 2 previous years in my life that were those kind of moments of crisis.
Was this the practice?
That were the practice for rediscovering what is important. So the first one was in 1990, and I was 28 years old, and I was the mother of 2 little ones, a newborn, and just a year or so old, and a toddler, 3 or so. And I was in seminary in Chicago, Illinois, and preparing to be a Episcopal priest. And I, as kind of, because I needed to earn a little money on the side, and one of the things I could do and that I wanted to challenge myself to do was to work as a chaplain at the Children's Memorial Hospital downtown in Chicago, to work as an on-call chaplain, which means you're the one who's there in the middle of the night when nothing good happens to children. And so I kind of did that because it was my worst nightmare, the death of a child, to watch a child suffer. Didn't know if I could handle it. And if I was going to make this my life's work, I needed to check that out. And I had 2 little ones at home too. So it was especially a heightened awareness for me. So the days and weeks that I spent sometimes taking a little one from a mama's arms as she finally let go of that child that had died, and carrying him down to the morgue and putting him where he needed to be as life had left his body. I would finish my shift late at night and come home in the morning, and I had papers to write and classes to go to, and I would skip class and take my kids and turn the music up really loud, and we'd spend all day dancing and twirling around and hugging and kissing and going outside to play in the sunshine or in the snow or whatever it was, because it was so clear after working the night shift at Children's Memorial Hospital what was important. I was alive, and others around me were alive, and every breath mattered, and every second mattered, and I wasn't going to waste it writing a stupid paper. I did have to, when I put him back to bed later that night, I would be bleary-eyed and write my paper. But so that was good practice for me. And then about 17 years later, in 2007, I'd been working as a priest at that point for 17 years or so, 15, and I took a sabbatical, and I went around the world to places that I had always wanted to go see, places where the spirit of joy and of life and of resilience and love just was really clear to me. So I went to South Africa. Always wanted to be there. That's the cradle of humanity. It's where we all come from. And I wanted to go there, and to Haiti, one of the places of most extreme poverty. And it's just been battered back and forth, and to Peru, where I had some friends and connections. Anyway, what I'm getting at is I had some incredible experiences there. Thought I might uproot my family and say, let's go there and we're going to go be missionaries. But I came back recognizing that the work I had been given to do was to go back home to the land of spas and golf courses and and people where I had relationships of love and trust already, and do that kind of work of transformation and of rediscovering what was important with them. The people in those other countries and places of sometimes extreme poverty, but also of great creativity and power and love, had taught me that we all have a circle of folks that have been entrusted to us, that are our people to tend to, and they didn't need me over in South Africa or Peru or Haiti. They needed me back in Florida. So, and a piece kind of that I guess I'll share too, that I heard you mention about last month's kind of highlight is I went to did a presentation at the third South African AIDS conference, and I heard the premier comedian for South Africa talking about humor being the single greatest weapon of mass destruction, of the single greatest weapon of mass destruction of evil and of fear.
Sounds like something Trevor Noah would say.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? So anyway, I came away from those two things with kind of my practice that the people entrusted to me, that laughter, that and kind of cherishing every breath we can take, and of connecting with others in whatever ways we can creatively to create hope and possibility and transformation were kind of what I wanted to be about. So
yeah, I don't think it's, Kammy, I don't think it's not lost on anybody. I think I can say this, without knowing your racial or cultural background, that you're a white woman. And so,
Yep.
it's not lost on me about the places that you named. And so to sort of pull that string, Dave Chappelle remarked about when he left, and his, was it, oh my Lord, Comedy Central, I think his very successful show was on the Chappelle Show, and that he left. And in one interview I saw him say that they said, well, why did you go to Africa? And I don't remember which country he went to. It may have been a couple of countries on the continent, but he said, I wanted to go where I felt like I was at home. And so even as a white woman, it's not lost on me that you said about, the continent being, and I know you said specifically about South Africa, and I get that visual reference, but the continent being the cradle of civilization. But there are so many amazing resources, and we see it, as a Western democracy, as poverty, but the riches untold there, because that's where people go to refresh and even to get right. But it's not lost on me that you went back to the continent to do that, and I think that's symbolic for a whole bunch of reasons.
Yeah.
Was that, and I don't know that you made that connection, but I think when you talk about, us doing this practice of discovery, that visual picture about discovering our roots and where we're connected to. I think that's what Dave Chappelle was talking about in some regard.
Yeah, I think so. And Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think it was a combination of some unconscious and some kind of intention, but mostly
Yeah.
probably unconscious.
Yeah.
I just knew I had a longing, a deep longing to be
Yeah.
there. Um,
Were you, I often say that when you're looking at your journey, whether it's trying to uncover your purpose or your passion, that it's often the safest place and the scariest place.
Absolutely.
Were you safe or scared during this time? So in the last, I'm not talking, I know you said there are two pivotal points, but
Yeah.
to kind of bring it back to
Back to
the last year and a
2020.
half.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you safe, or did you feel
Oh,
safe
yeah,
or
that's a
scared,
good
or?
question because I'm embarrassed almost to be able to say that because I am a white woman with, um, the resources that enabled me to be able to work from home that year, to live. I've lived in Pensacola now for 3 years, moving here because this is where my adult children lived and where a grandchild was due to be born, and with a husband that has retired fully. And so the reality is I was totally insulated this past year. I didn't lose a damn thing in terms of my own life. Nobody in my family got sick. Nobody in my family died. No one in my close connection, for at least for much of this year. I didn't lose, none of our immediate family lost any jobs, all of that, just really insulated from a lot of the losses. The only real loss I can say directly impacted by the pandemic was my 106-year-old grandmother got COVID-19 and died. And
Wow.
so
Oh,
she lived
mm,
106 years old,
yeah.
and she was ready. So no, I didn't have to face a lot of fears, but I sure was. I mean, I remember the day you told me. It was before I understood or knew what had happened with George Floyd, but I think you came over to sit on my front porch to talk with me about whether or not we would open up the Freedom School, because I wanted some advice about understanding what was the best way of honoring the children and families and people involved. Was it to open it or not? And and I remember you said something about Lloyd telling you about the death that had happened, the murder that had happened, and I didn't get it. I hadn't heard. I didn't know yet, but it wasn't lost on me both that I didn't personally suffer or lose, but I also think that we are connected, and that the greatest evil is not recognizing the connection, is trying to ignore it or think that it isn't real when it is absolutely real. That's why we're in so much of the trouble that we are in. So, to get back to sitting on the wall with you, what happened for me pretty clearly was a sense that it was time, that I had some things to do that felt like the most important things given to me to do, whether that was laugh with my husband more and go walk on the beach, or give the attention that was needed to get this Freedom School off the ground, or just Pensacola. At this point is, we had a lead organizer who had to take another position, and so there was a 4-month period where we were gonna not have anybody to kind of keep the ball rolling, so that we could on May 3rd have the mayor, the sheriff, the school superintendent, and the state attorney there to demand that we change the way we do the arrests of our children and of our adult citizens who have minor offenses. It just is insane to carry on the way we have been. And I didn't want that to languish. So those were positions that paid either nothing or very little with my time. The best job of all is being Nana to Houston, as you mentioned, and another baby Margaret Adela, who's on the way in a month. That I want to be free to laugh and play and dance with them with the music cranked up, and take them to the beach. And so anyway, so we live simply in we have the ability to do that.
So you talked about the being safe, and I understand from that you said that it was that safety. You were wrapped in this idea of privilege because of your
Yeah.
race and skin color, but also because of a safe economic space.
Yep.
Were you ever scared about what that next thing would look like?
There were a couple of times when George and I were working on our spending plans, and I thought, "Ooh, this is going to be really tight." Hard to do because now I have to pay for my own insurance. How does anyone afford insurance? The medical, it's just unbelievable. I've been accustomed for the last 30 years to having an employer pay that, and anyway, so there were a couple times I thought it's tight, but I guess I can't say that I ever had fear. If the only fear might be seeing the word former in front of my name, my title or whatever, maybe was I, but there is so much good work to do, and there's so many amazing people, and life is so full of opportunities that I wasn't really deeply afraid ever that I would be twiddling my thumbs.
I think when you said that with the former, I think a lot of people, and I know that I've had this experience, this kind of self-reflection of wrapping my value or my worth or what was important in my title. So whether it's a job title or a personal title, when people describe, when you say, "Who are you?" and you immediately start saying, "I'm a wife, I'm a mother," it's in the framework of someone else. And so you're looking external, these sort of titles. And when those things are taken away from you or change, then does that mean that your value or your worth changes? So when you said former, I think a lot of people that resonates with a lot of people, because it's like you lose a job, especially over the last year and a half. And so or you mentioned George Floyd calling out his mother, and that his child now is
Doesn't
may
have
not any longer, so her title, no, she's young, but still the title of a daughter, that those things do change.
Yeah.
And so that people do attach their value and their worth, and my mirror's right here, to their title.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say former, does that lessen your value or your worth?
Yeah, and I think I do think I'm just 58, so I'm not old. I don't think yet. I'm
Oh, I'm
not sure what
25.
old is.
So I'm
Yeah, good.
25.
Okay,
When I
good.
get there, I'll tell you.
Okay. Um, but I do think that there comes a season in life, if there's a bell curve too, and biologically there is to our human bodies, that there comes a time in which you are no longer building up, you're deteriorating. That there's a season of generativity, kind of a season when, and I could feel that shift when it was no longer about what could I accomplish, what could I do, what could I challenge myself to become, to instead being, how can I support, how can I encourage, how can I lift up another becoming, the next generation of people becoming. And so, that's part of what was so satisfying in my transition this, on February 1st or January 30th, was that as I was leaving my titled position, working on the bishop's staff here, I was also making a space, creating a space for a younger woman who had just been ordained, who had and has incredible passion, and who was just starting her vocation in this same kind of work of that was needed as part of the diocese. She was chomping at the bit, excited and ready to go and full
Wow.
of moving forward with it. And by my stepping back, it created the space for her to step in at just the right time. And so that kind of generativity, you know, it's I can't go back and undo the mistakes I made in parenting, but I can come alongside my adult daughter, who's now a mother and parent, and be a support and an added cheerleader and you know, and companion along the way to help her
But
family
that's a
at
good
their
point that
best.
in your rediscovery, I'm sorry, I was talking over you.
No, good.
in
Go
your
for it.
in your rediscovery, you're helping someone else discover. So you're over here doing this and kind of, you know, how am I going to you know, twirl all of these different options over here, and here's someone just trying to get in the game, you know. So it's like, don't even
Yeah,
have a baton, you know. You're sitting here twirling, going, here are my options, and here's the next person, she's saying, I just want to get in the game, you know, I just want to
absolutely.
discover. Yeah, yeah. And I don't know that I didn't think about that until you said that our rediscovering what's important often makes way for someone else, and gets us out of the way of someone
Yeah,
else. Maybe, you know, you talked about a season. There's an old thing that says people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. That sometimes
uh,
we stay in a place where we're supposed to be temporarily, and we end up being there for too long and being very
yeah.
comfortable in that space. Yeah,
Yeah, my
yeah.
mom tells me that her mother would often tell her, best time to leave a party is while everyone's still having fun. So, yeah, don't want to overstay your welcome. But yeah, there's a season. There was a season for my time in that role and in other roles that I've had, and there's joy in leaving and creating a season for another person to have their time.
How does your various circles respond to your decision? How did they react and and act to your decision when
Uh,
you started sharing?
That's a good question. I think I'd been talking about it and thinking about it for a while, so no one was caught off guard. So I don't think it was a surprise to anybody. Um, uh, so yeah, so I don't have I don't have any strong memories um, of that announcement. I think it was not a big event. I mean, there's so many momentous events happening in the world right now. Um, this was just a tiny, tiny, tiny drop in the bucket of things. So
Yeah,
I don't think it
I
wasn't
want to
that big
challenge
a
you.
deal.
Yeah, I want to challenge you on that point, though, because I think it is. I think everything that's in the world is about us individually. And so our journeys and you, and that's why I'm saying that you were, you know, bold enough to do it, bold enough to share it, and bolder to even do it. That I think often people, and I'm going to generalize here, I think often people stay in that very comfortable space. And maybe, you know, this is what was that movie about the chemical company, and the attorney said it's the devil we know. So it's
Yeah,
the place, you know, and it's where you're comfortable, and may not be the best place for you, but it is why you stay, why people stay. So I do think that I don't want you to undermine. I'm not telling you, I'm
hmm,
not a
yeah,
psychologist. I know Dr.
yeah. I
Williams
hear
would
what
be
you're
like,
saying.
stop armchair quarterbacking, Robin. Why I don't want you to minimize your you know what this means, because I think it is an important thing. And I think especially with this last year, with us looking at you know, how we value people, how we
Yeah,
care for people or don't care for people, how we our perceptions of people, and ourselves, this last year. how that manifests itself in the way that we treat ourselves. And so I think what you're going through is a good example of that. And then you dare to rediscover, to discover what is important. Because I think a lot of people will take this conversation, hopefully a lot of people will take this conversation and, kind of have that mirror up to themselves to see, well, what can I do, or what can I get back to doing, and figure out what's really important.
Yeah. And I think, and so, that's what's clear, is that it's not going to be the same thing for anybody, any two people. What is important, we each have been given incredible gifts and experiences and all of that, so that, and none of it's the same. So that will be different. But I guess, so if I do make a bigger deal of it than the other, just a tiny drop in the bucket of life, it might just be that there's always a way. I think our worst selves come out when we feel completely like we have no choice but to continue on with the same old. That there is no new way or third way or other options. And I want to acknowledge in that certainly I have way more options than 99.9% of the population in the world. But there's got to be something more that each of us can draw on, reach out, and risk trying if we're not living what's most important to us. There's got to be some change we can make to get closer to.
Yeah. What role did faith play? It would be, silly of me not to ask that with Reverend Kammy, even though you say former, with that title. What role did your faith play in this rediscovery?
Yeah. So I think I can rattle off a couple of favorite verses that run around in my head that I think are part of how I see and filter through life. But one of them is Jesus saying in John's gospel to all of us, "I've come that my joy might be in you and that your joy might be complete." I mean, I really do think we were created for joy, period. And if we aren't having fun, something's not right. We're not living the life we've been entrusted to live. So there's that. I think, the other place in John, he says, "I've come that you might have life and have life abundantly." That there's a whole mentality of scarcity or abundance, and that so much of what motivates us so much for the time is fear and scarcity and being isolated. And any time that we can kind of get ourselves turned around out of that to seeing abundance and hope and connectedness, that is always going to lead us in good paths. And I guess another favorite of mine that I really see a lot of life is it's a passage in the Galatians that talks about the fruit of the Spirit. Where's the Spirit at work? How do you tell if you're where you want to be or need to be or should be, or doing what you're kind of given to do? And is there love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, self-control? Those fruits of the Spirit are. And so just paying attention every day. There's a daily practice called the Examine, where at the end of the day, you just light a candle, take a breath, close your eyes, and review the day. And you notice, and maybe even say aloud to another human being, "This is what I'm most grateful for today, and this is what I'm least grateful today," or "This is where I notice the most life in me, and this is where I notice life being sucked out of me." And when you do that day after day after day, you start to notice patterns, and then making choices that lean into what you've noticed in those patterns makes sense. If it keeps feeling, the things that are not life-giving, lean more as much as you can into things that are life-giving for you, and make decisions that spend less of your day and way of life in the things that are sucking the life out of you. And again, I don't want to say my job was sucking the life out of me. It's just that as I get older and recognize my moving into a new generation, life is short and you don't have much time to bring joy to others' lives as well as your own. And so if I can focus on the things that seemed most important and most given to me as mine to do, and leave the other things to the people that can and want to do the things that I was doing before that I'm not now in my former position as being a former pastor and teacher. Let them do it. I preached 30 years. Let other people preach now. Yeah.
Yeah. That's called Examine.
Yeah, it's called the spiritual examine, EXAMEN, and Ignatius of Loyola is the person who developed it. And there's a great book called Sleeping with Bread. And reading it to my grandson yesterday, and he was giggling at the pictures of children holding bread when they go to bed, because that's the thing that helps us hold on at the end of each day to what's important and what's life-giving, what's not, so that we learn to trust that there will be goodness tomorrow and the next day, and to take the risks and to be braver and bolder. So
one of my favorite historical books in history is by a Pensacolian podiatrist by the name of E. St. Clair Thomas, Edward St. Clair Thomas. And Dr. Thomas wrote a book in 1922 or 24 called The Barefoot Barber. And it's in one of the favorite pieces. It's a collection of prose and poetry, and it's called Examine Yourselves with a Z. Examine yourself. Yeah. He lets nobody off the hook. So he's African American. He lets nobody off he calls the roll, but it really is about looking inward to see how you can just, as you said, examine, or as he says, examine yourself, to really, as you said, to make he was talking about not only your homes and your families, but yourself and your community better. Especially during this, very turbulent time. Feels like, it's 100 years ago. Lord have mercy, 100 years ago, that we're still having that same conversation. Yeah, to examine ourselves and see what really is important. And so I'm really excited that you here. I appreciate you having the conversation. I do want to close with this. One of my favorite performances the last couple of years, and then it came on Disney last year. I was just like a kid in a candy store. Was Hamilton.
Yeah. We watched it when it came out. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can sing every song well and off key. But Amanda, I'll kind of draw the string. Amanda Gorman, the poet, the fabulous poet, the nation's first National Youth Poet Laureate, in her piece has a couple lines that reminded me of Hamilton. But she says, "For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us," and that it feels very like it was, maybe a line that was paying homage to Lin-Manuel Miranda's piece. But so while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. So as you look back and as you look toward, where do you think that we will remember, or that you will remember yourself in this time? What will your eyes see in this time?
Gosh. This time has been so hard for so many people. I think so much lost, and so much betrayal of human dignity, and that I think what I'll see is the incredible capacity for people to continue to love in spite of so much loss and righteous anger and betrayal. That there's that somehow forgiveness happens. That hope kind of carries us forward, and but mostly that people are just amazing. That we keep muddling through and screwing up, messing up, whatever, and hurting each other, and coming back to the table again, and working on what's the next best step we can take together to make to make history look at us and say, oh, at least they were trying.
Yeah.
they were trying. So
in your word, to practice,
Yeah.
to rediscover, so that you can, as you said, with the examine, to kind of get back to really what's important. Yeah,
that somehow the fact that we still rise over and over and over again to our better selves, our better angels, our going high, and being loving, living loving lives is that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Well,
Reverend
thank
Kathryn
you.
Mary, Kammy Young, just Kammy. Thank you. This has been incredible. And again, thank you so much for sharing. You said yes when I asked you a few months ago, and so I really do appreciate that you share this. I know it was deeply personal, and I do appreciate, because I think a lot of people are examining themselves and perhaps not knowing where to go, or what this process should look like, not only for themselves but for their families and their businesses. So thank you so much for using yourself as a beacon of light, that to hold up and to light the way. Hopefully, I think you've lit the way for others just having this conversation.
Well, I'm just so honored that you think my being a part of this could be of interest or hope or help, just or fun for anybody. So it was. I love getting to talk to you any chance I get. So.
And I don't go anywhere. I know I'll see you on the wall, but don't go anywhere.
Okay,
don't go anywhere. Dave, if you want to come back up, and I don't know if we have any questions. We want to open it up for Q&A from the audience. I haven't been monitoring that. This has been so great just to have this conversation.
Yes, there's a few things in the chat. Folks are saying hello, and glad that they're here. But Dr. Sandra Winborn, Sandy, she said that says hi, but she says she was reading a poem that this morning addressing ending something while pursuing a new direction that fits the new order.
Say that again. Ending something while
pursuing a new direction that fits that fits your new order, and then I guess it's, do you have peacefulness in your new way of life? And this, that becomes a further reflection that may allow greater happiness.
So she's asking Kammy, Dr. Winborn's asking Kammy, does she have peace in her new life?
That may be the name of the poem.
The title of the poem, yeah. I'm Googling to see if I could find.
But stop Googling and answer that question, Kammy. I like that question. Thanks, Doc.
The answer is yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It's really a lot of peace. So yes.
I never known.
And I'd love to know that poem and look it up.
I'd never known the title of a poem to end in a question. Is that I don't know. Yeah. I guess I never paid attention.
Do you, Robin? I let you get by without having to share enough.
Do I have peace?
Do you have peace in your way of life? And is it new for you do you have a new way of life in this? on this side of the year 2020?
Yeah, it has been very difficult for me. I think on which day I was again. I mentioned the friends that Lloyd and I had over on Wednesday. We were outside. It was just we were laughing and trying to solve the world's problems, and it was 2 or 3 hours of just absolutely amazement, and not worrying about anything, or it was so peaceful. And so I think I appreciate that I have more moments of peace than not. And I know peace is not necessarily the absence of war, so I know.
Yeah.
And so with this year has been, and I think I've said this to several of my friends and family, and Lloyd knows this, it's been very difficult for me. This distance between people, I've been joking about, I'm going to give people 10 hugs. I think it's up to 40 hugs now. I've broken COVID rules. I readily acknowledge that because I've just had to hug some people. It has been difficult. I've had writer's block at points and times. We just got our roof fixed down at the Institute. I'm excited about, getting back. Our home is safe. Our children, our families, friends are safe. And so, I've had more peace than not. And I'm okay with that right now. I'm content with that right now. So it is. I recognize that this is a journey, and this last year has been a very difficult journey. At times when I've thought I've it's kind of leveled out, then here comes someone else who's made their transition unexpectedly. And with all of this cultural wars, if you will, our racial reckoning locally, our whole conversation about KKK and what families have contributed to that. Valuing other people. Yeah, my heart has hurt, and this year, I'll say this in hush, this year has really made me understand why doctors, why the medical profession talks about African Americans and hypertension, that whole, and not, I think I have a pretty good diet and, exercise and, try to have a good mental health quotient, if you will, not try to take away too much or add to it. But I have felt, my heart has felt heavy with these conversations. And, and I've said this, I was mad. I said last year, and I told Lloyd, and he was having to calm me down. I said, if another good white person calls me, asks me how to figure this thing out, it was, I had to go through this process to get to my own reckoning. And it's been a difficult journey, and not one, I promise you, that I will forget for, the next 70 years I have on this earth. It is not one that I will forget. So, and I think a lot of people are having, that's a great question Dr. Winburn asked in that poem about that. And
the poem is, the title of the poem is Orange Energy. And
Orange Energy.
yes.
That's a visual.
Yeah. Brian has a question. He says, Brian Wire has a question. Is there any great books that you would recommend for us to read?
Oh, wow. What would you say to that, Robin?
I'm gonna let you answer, because I was about to go to Dr. Seuss and the Lorax, or
Yeah.
have to stay away from the 6 books with what's his name? Oh my Lord, the Butter Battle book.
I've reread that one lately. Yep, it's pretty good.
It's the Butter Battle book. It's the Ukes and the Zooks, and fussing over the bread being buttered on one side or the other, and all you have to do is flip it over and see that we're all the same, but we're building walls and things like that.
It's good.
So, I'm laughing because I said Dr. Seuss in that whole conversation.
Well, there's that. Yeah. So I have been reading lots of books with my grandson, and so I can now that you opened up that whole world of children's literature, I have some really good ones that have some really great messages. So one is written by the cartoonist who did Opus for so many years, the political satirist. He wrote a children's book called Pickles and Pete. Great message, Pickles and Pete, about, and it's kind of what we've been talking about. Pete's just this perfectly practical pig who's just going along with his life, being practical and predictable, and I can loan it to you, Robin. I own it. And then Pickles, the circus elephant that escapes from the slavery of the circus, comes and teaches him how to play and imagine and never have the same day look like the day before that. Anyway, it's a great book, and how they save each other's lives, basically. So Pickles and Pete by Berkeley Breathed is his name. Is that cartoonist that I can highly recommend and is life-giving. And then there are two books that I've really loved that I've give to as gifts as well to other parents and children, that are, one is about Kamala Harris and the other is by Kamala Harris. Kamala and the Big Idea, which is about what we do with Just Pensacola, about community organizing, and it's written by her niece, who tells the story about Kamala and her sister and the big idea that they have and work together. And the other is Superheroes Are Everywhere, that Kamala Harris wrote, and talks, and then has you make a pledge. I don't post to Facebook very often, but my most recent post, I think, was my grandson making the pledge to be a superhero in this world. So anyway, those are a couple of good ones. If you want to go deeper, it looks like it's a children's book, but it's really great theology. There's a book called Manna and Mercy. That is my favorite book, as well as When God Was a Little Girl. So those are the profound theology books too that I'll throw in. Nice. Manna and Mercy and When God Was a Little Girl.
Nice.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Yeah. One of my other favorite children's books, since we're on that, is The Giving Tree, and I just forgot his name. It's not Ezra Keats, but it is Shel Silverstein. Yep, yeah. Shel Silverstein or Steen. Yep. One of them, and it's a classic. Really about how we not only, especially now that we just celebrated Earth Day, not only how we deal with the natural world, but how we are supported by things and people who we don't see, who literally grow up with us and provide things at different points in our lives, but are always and constantly there, and that we just come to rely on. The Giving Tree it's a beautiful thing. I remember I gave that to one of my bosses. They were giving me, it was a difficult time. And so he said, are you thinking you're equating yourself to the Giving Tree? I said, no, you just need to appreciate those folks who are around you. And it really said it, we still speak today. They live in Hawaii, and he said it really made the difference in how he, talked with people and treated people. And so that was thanks to my mother, that bookshelf back there. Thanks to my mother and all of her wonderful children's books. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's good.
Sandy recommends Horton Hears a Who.
Oh, yes. Another Dr. Seuss. Yes.
Yeah.
All of Dr. Seuss's big books, I'm doing this because all of his big books are for adults, and they have these amazing messages. The Lorax, as we're talking about Earth Day. The Lorax is one.
Yertle the Turtle. That's another one.
Yep.
That's
the Lorax really talks about how we treat the natural world, the biology of this. So thank you, Dr. Winburn. Yeah. And since we have Dr. Winburn here, I'll just say Al's 10 Fingers. He made his transition in December, and we celebrated his life in January. But Dr. Winburn wrote a book with Al Martin, Al's 10 Fingers, really about perseverance and you know, having those people around you, those teachers and a community around you to help you. So his 10 fingers were about the piano, but how to have those and how to really kind of, you know, live your dreams and make your dreams become a reality to work and perseverance. And I think a good whooping in there too. Some discipline and love.
Yes. Say hi to Bonnie, your friend Bonnie, our friend Bonnie.
Right.
DC, so we're London and DC, so we're national and international.
Cool.
Yes.
All righty.
But let me say this because it goes right to what I've been sharing this ever since Bonnie shared this with me after she'd been following the trial and so on the verdict, after the verdict, she sent me a text that said the ship is turning even in concrete.
Wow.
The ship is turning even in concrete.
In concrete. Wow. That's
I have shared that with so many people, and one of my other girlfriends said that's a visual. That visual about how we just persist, you know. What did I think somebody wrote a book, She Persisted, but that visual about how we persist and that things can turn even though they look like. And if you think about concrete, it continues to harden years and years down the road.
does,
That ship is turning. So, yes.
That's good.
Yeah. But the ship is turning even in concrete. Thanks, Bonnie. Hey, Bonnie.
All righty. So that's about it, I guess, huh?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah. It's almost 7:30. Yeah. Thank you,
Enough
Kammy.
about
Thank
me.
you. Thank you
Thank
again
you so much.
so much. Thank you. And say hi to George. And I don't even know your children's name. And they don't matter. I'm going to say this. They don't matter. Houston matters. And little Margaret's your grandchildren.
I got it. They get that too. I understand. Thank you for loving them the way you do, and we love you.
Yeah.
Honored to be with you all.
Thank you, Kammy. Yes, I'm gonna hang around for a few minutes over in the sessions if anybody wanted to chat for a little while, but that ends our formal program, and we're so glad for those of you who joined us and those out on Facebook listening in.
Yeah. Thank you all. Thank everyone for joining us. Kammy, thank you again, and everybody have a safe weekend. Go out and rediscover what is important. Start taking that journey and you know, do as Kammy did. Be big and bad and bold and do it because you deserve it. You absolutely deserve it. So bye everybody.
Amen.
Bye everybody.
Bye-bye.